This week on Inside the Headset, we are featuring Wayne State University head coach Paul Winters. In this episode, Coach Winters highlights the various factors that go into selecting a coaching job, shares his thoughts on the evolving nature of college football, and details his personal involvement with the AFCA. But first, a word from our partner. The All-State AFCA Good Works team has been one of the most esteemed honors in college football for more than 30 years. The student athletes who are nominated for this award demonstrate a unique dedication to community service and desire to make a positive impact on the world around them. The Good Works team is comprised of 11 players from the FBS and 11 players from the FCS, Division II, III, and NAIA, as well as one honorary head coach. To be in consideration by All-State and the AFCA for a nomination, each player must be actively involved with the charitable organization or service group while maintaining a strong academic standing. Past Good Works team members include notable players such as Peyton and Eli Manning, Tim Tebow, Trevor Lawrence, and Nakobe Dean. Coaches, do you have a player that you think embodies the values of a Good Works team? Be sure to connect with your SID to discuss potential nominees. Nomination forms have been sent out for the 2022 AFC Assistant Coach of the Year Award. To be eligible for this honor, a candidate must be an assistant coach at a 4-year collegiate institution, have joined or renewed AFCA membership prior to the start of the 2022 football season, coach in a program that is not on major NCAA, NAIA, or conference probation, and make outstanding contributions in the area of community service, professional organization involvement, and student-athlete development, both on and off the field. Deadline to send in a nomination is May 27th.
Coach Winters, how are you?
Oh, Coach, it's a wonderful time in Detroit, Michigan, about 30 degrees.
Oh, man.
We're experiencing late winter.
Oh, yeah. That's I got a couple friends up north, and it's just amazing how I'm like, it was 95 when I got in my car yesterday, and then I got a buddy that's up in Wisconsin. He sent me a picture of the snow like last week, and I'm like, that's just crazy.
It is crazy. It was 85 on Sunday.
Oh, man, so you're getting the back and forth a little bit. Well, hopefully spring ball went well for you guys, and I know your staff's out on the road, so I do appreciate you taking a little time to sit down and chat with us and to kind of get the thing rolling. You're heading into your 19th season as the head coach at Wayne State, and a profession that can be so volatile, and you more and more you're seeing less and less coaches have that longevity at particular universities and colleges across the country. What do you contribute to your longevity and success there at Wayne State?
Well, I think more than anything, it's probably a personal decision. You have opportunities when you have success. You have opportunities to change jobs and to go and make more money.
Right.
And sometimes you have to decide what's important to you. You talk about the volatility of the position. When you're chasing the money a little bit, you're probably losing some of the things that you can do for young men. And I think that the ability to help young men grow and develop was a little bit more important than me than making, more money.
Absolutely. When did that light bulb go off for you? Was that something as you entered the profession, you kind of always knew that it was a little bit more important to maybe touch the lives of young people versus, chasing that letter sweater, or the big hat?
Yeah. When I was younger, seems like yesterday, I had opportunities to continue to move up in the profession. I started at Akron, my alma mater, and moved to Toledo. Shortly after that, I moved to the University of Wisconsin. And I think it was my time at Wisconsin that kind of changed my thought process because it was a different atmosphere than kind of the Mid-American Conference. And, I went back to Akron after I left Wisconsin, and it kind of changed who I was, I guess.
Yeah, that's understandable. Now, in light of kind of what we're talking about right now, you actually had the opportunity around, I think, 2011 to come back and be the head coach at your alma mater. You're at this point in time, you're currently the head coach at Wayne State. And you actually decided to stay at Wayne State. What was a little bit of your thought process? And obviously you don't have to get in every detail of what exactly went into that process, but obviously we have a ton of young coaches that are listening to this podcast, coaches that are currently, maybe close to these type of decisions. What were some of the factors that are worth considering when you have these opportunities presenting?
It's funny. A lot of factors go into it, and there's probably not one, two, or three that are the deciding factors. But the year that we went and played for national championship here at Wayne State, I actually, in a 7-month period, lost both my mom and dad, who lived in Akron, and it was a difficult situation for me to leave here and go back to where they weren't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I that was a factor. That was part of it. Part of it was I had built something here that I thought was special, and I was very proud of it, and I was very proud of the young men that I was developing, and I really felt like I should be here.
That's amazing. What's interesting is I actually yesterday we recorded with Coach Lester, head coach of Western Michigan, and he was a former player at Western Michigan. We actually spent a little time talking about that was a dream fulfilling opportunity for him to actually go back and coach at his alma mater. And do you have a dream job, or is your dream job kind of wherever your feet are type situation?
It's wherever your feet are. You can't really think about other places. You got to do the best job where you are. My dream job when I was young was Akron, and I interviewed for it probably 3 times in my career. And after the first 2, I really didn't feel like I was given a fair shot, and I was pretty bitter at the time. And it was like, well, you know what? Maybe this isn't the best job for me.
Yeah.
So it just, as times change, you change.
Absolutely. Well, that's a good little line there to segue to the next question. As times change, you change, and as times change, everything changes to a certain extent. Now, you've been a college coach for just over 30 years. How has the game changed? And not necessarily the X's and O's, but just this profession as a whole, interactions with student athletes, you can even throw the X's and O's in there, but how has it changed since the first time you put that headset on years ago to now?
It's changed so many ways. You can't even begin to put it all together. I think that obviously the transfer portal has changed it considerably, and it's not all bad. It's not all good.
Correct.
I think that student athletes have a little bit more say in their lives. We as coaches have to do a better job of communicating with them. And I think that in a lot of ways it's more fair for the student athletes, but also in a lot of ways it's more difficult to coach because you don't know what's going to, who are they listening to? Are they getting the message that you're sending out? Are you building the kind of family that you always talk about building? Until this year, we didn't have anyone leave in the transfer portal. And then with COVID and a couple things that changed their minds, I ended up losing 2 or 3 guys. And it's the first time, and this is something that you have to get used to. You have to adjust to.
Well, over the years, and obviously you're on the board, so you got a pretty good relationship with Todd Berry. I played for Coach Berry back when he was the head coach in the Army, and then spent a little time with him when he was the head coach at Louisiana Monroe. And so we spent time sitting in my office, or me sitting in his office here, and we talk about certain things. He's like, yeah, when I was first got into coaching back in the 70s, 80s, some of this stuff was a little bit like it was then. I mean, some of the things that are coming back around, it was a little bit these NCAA rules have changed over time. Are you seeing any similarities from when you first got in? Because I know some of this stuff has kind of come not completely full circle, but there are some similarities from back then.
Yeah, I think that it's funny when I started and when I continued, it seemed that the rules were very strict and some of the things. You look at what happened with SMU,
right,
basically getting the death penalty. Those things are legal now.
right, right.
So there's, to me, it's a drastic change, and it's a little bit frightening, kind of. Those things weren't necessarily right then, and you really want a level playing field. It's kind of hard to have that anymore.
Absolutely. Now, obviously that's a little bit of the profession I know we're trying to navigate through, and I know everybody's not absolutely excited about everything that's going on, but I know we're actively working to try to get it to a good place. I won't say perfect place. I don't know if that's possible. But
right.
one of the positive things about coaching is the impact, the power of influence that we have on our young people that we coach as student athletes. And you've had just an incredible track record of a bunch of your players going through your program. And, I don't know if they came there to be coaches, but they walk out and they're coaches. They've gotten into this great profession, many at the high school level, many have kind of went on to be state champions, or, some of them are coaching college ball. What does it mean to you when somebody looks and, says, I wanted to be a coach because of my experience with Coach Winters and my experience with that staff at Wayne State football? What does that mean to you?
It means everything. It's an amazing feeling when you have a young man that you coach that comes back and, gives you any kind of credit for what they become. Just seeing the success that the guys that I've had are having, that's a big deal to me. The other part that's been important to me is I've been able to hire guys that I've coached. And that's always a fun thing because I've watched them grow, from a high school student to a leader of men.
Absolutely. Now, I kind of made mention of Todd Berry, and I play for him and I coach for him. And actually on our staff, many of his staffs, it was loaded with guys that used to play for him. And, every now and again he'll make a hire of a guy that was, I don't want to say outsider, but a guy he might not necessarily had any touch with prior to hiring him. How do you like to comprise your staff? Like, is it typically guys that and that have played for you? They kind of know your culture, or are you pretty open to acquiring new staff members?
I'm open. I've had guys that have, I didn't know they were recommended to me by other coaches. Most recently, I have a young man that I hired for my defensive line that Coach Knight coached at Ouachita. So
yeah.
It was pretty amazing down in San Antonio. He introduced me to him, and it was like amazing what a great young man he was. And I hired him almost immediately.
Well, that's great to see how your relationships have influenced your staff, and your relationships have influenced others to recommend. So that's what this great game is all about. Now you talked about Coach Knight there. He's obviously a part of the board as well. So let's talk a little bit about your involvement with the AFCA over the years. Many people see that as just an opportunity to kind of come down and grow as a coach and take part of the education, take part of catching up with friends in the profession. And there's a larger and larger group of people that are getting a little bit more involved and been on the committees and things like that. And then there's another group of you guys that are head coaches that are comprise our board. And since 2017, you've been on the board of trustees. Explain why that was something that was important to you, and definitely you could come to the convention and probably get a little bit more done and not be tied up in some of those long meetings that I know you guys had. But why was that important for you?
It was kind of a amazing timing. I had been on the board of the rules committee, and so I was kind of transitioning off of that. And Lee Owens was leaving the AFCA, and I worked for Lee for 9 years.
Okay.
And so, we talked about kind of what his duties were and everything. And I was in a position where, I wanted to help. I wanted to advance the game, and just at least give opinions. and try to represent the Division II level, because I thought that was important. I think sometimes it's forgotten, Division II and III, and you know how that is.
Yeah,
But I just, the big thing for me was to play my part, not just take all the advantages that I've had in my lifetime because of coaching, but give back.
Before I let you go here, Coach, I did want to ask you one thing. You had this very, very unique opportunity on your resume to kind of roll through it: head coach, tight ends, running backs, and then this brief little 2-year period, I believe it was around 2 years, you were a compliance coordinator.
You're not supposed to look at my resume.
So, what? Tell me a little bit about how you got into that. What was that about? And just really intriguing, because that's something I typically don't see as I roll through.
I had been at Wisconsin for a couple of years with Barry Alvarez. I was on his first staff, and we had an incredible staff, and we just continued to have incredible people come on the staff. And so after a couple of years, we didn't have the great success, and the guy who was offense coordinator basically was responsible for me being hired. So they let him go, and they were going to replace me with Brad Childress, who was pretty darn good running back coach.
Yeah.
And so they gave me the opportunity to stay, and I loved the place. I loved the opportunity, and I went and became the compliance coordinator for 3 years. That wore me out.
Oh, really?
And it's just, compliance isn't necessarily a fun job. You're a lot of negative. But one of the great things about coaching is you have a work ethic. So as compliance coordinator, I was in the office early. I got things done early, able to put together manuals and a lot of different things that helped, I thought, during my time there. And then after a few years, I wanted to get back into this.
Yeah. Well, was there anything, I know it's such a unique job, and obviously you have to, rules have changed so much since then, but you obviously always have to be in compliance. So at least kind of right after, was there anything you kind of took from that job that was helpful, that's been helpful in your career?
I think that throughout my career, I've had a better understanding of the reason why we have the rules. And as a coach, how coaches are, we complain a lot.
Yeah.
And it was easier for me to say, hey, this is why we're doing it. Let's move on.
Right. Well, that's awesome, Coach. Well, as usual, anytime I get to interact with you, it's always my pleasure. Thanks so much for what you do, not only for your student athletes and your programs, as so many have gotten to this great profession, but thanks for what you do for our organization and your involvement on the boards, and, just your involvement over the years. We strongly appreciate that relationship we have with you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for what you do. I listen to you like 2 or 3 times a week, so
man.
I appreciate it.
Well, that's awesome that we got a head coach that tunes in. So I sure appreciate that, Coach, and hopefully spring ball has went well and recruiting's going well, and wishing you the best as you roll right into the fall season, okay?
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Coach. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset. If you heard anything on this episode that you would like to learn more information about, head over to afcapodcast.com, where you can find every episode and all of the corresponding show notes. While you're there, take a second to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for the show, please let us know by sending an email to podcast@afca.com. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter @InsideTheHeadset and tag it when you share each episode. You can stay up to date with all things AFCA by following the @WeAreAFCA Twitter account. Every episode of Inside the Headset can also be found on your favorite audio streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you are not currently a member of the AFCA, be sure to find us online at afca.com and apply to join over 10,000 NFL, college, and high school coaches from around the country who are striving to be the best they can be. With an AFCA membership, you gain invaluable access to the annual AFCA convention, the bi-monthly magazine, and the new and improved digital library, which contains thousands of videos and articles contributed by hundreds of current and former football coaches. You can also visit AFCAinsider.com to sign up for our free weekly email newsletter on the right-hand side of the screen. It comes out every Tuesday at lunch and is filled with great articles and stories written by many of the same coaches you hear on the podcast. It's geared to help you become a better coach tomorrow than you are today. Be sure to connect with me on Twitter at Coach Mario Price. And remember, the AFCA is not just an annual convention. It is an association that continually promotes education, guidance, and networking. But it is also so much more than that. The AFCA is about celebrating the past and educating the future. It is about developing great coaches who will produce great teams and even better people. So invest in your skill set and impact today by engaging with the AFCA.